been transformed. I've been transformed, never going back. I've been transformed, never going back, better than before, never going back. I've been transformed, never going back. This means war, ready for all that.
I've been transformed, never going back, better than before. Time to react. This means war, ready to attack. I've been transformed. Funny how everything changed. New mainframe. Now I got it, life in my veins. I've been reborn, far from the norm. My soul transformed. We are connected, brand new perspective. Synchronized, digitized, soul non-reflective. Served and protected, locked in, I'm loaded. This weapon's perfected. All alone, I'm a one-man army. Oh, but with you, I stand a trillion strong. I've been transformed, never going back, better than before. Time to react. This means war, ready to attack. I've been transformed. I've been transformed, never going back, better than before. Time to react. This means war, ready to attack. I've been transformed. Picture me, paper in the hands of my creator. My creator. I'm pressing frying grease, origami, caterpillar cocoon, butterfly by noon, shape shifting the clouds to beautiful blossom bloom. Perspective, color corrected, beyond the science of human genetics. Served and protected, locked in, I'm loaded. This weapon's perfected. All alone, I'm a one-man army. Oh, but with you, I stand a trillion strong. I've been transformed, never going back, better than before. Time to react. This means war, ready to attack. I've been transformed. I've been transformed, never going back, better than before. Time to react. This means war, ready to attack. I've been transformed.
I've been transformed, never going back, better than before, never going back. I've been transformed, never going back. This means war, ready for all that. I've been transformed, never going back, better than before, never going back. I've been transformed, never going back. This means war, ready for all that.
I've been transformed, never going back, better than before. Time to react. This means war, ready to attack. I've been transformed. I've been transformed, never going back, better than before. Time to react. This means war, ready to attack. I've been transformed.
I've been transformed. I've been transformed, never going back. I've been transformed, never going back, better than before, never going back. I've been transformed, never going back. This means war, ready for all that.
I've been transformed, never going back, better than before. Time to react. This means war, ready to attack. I've been transformed. Funny how everything changed. New mainframe. Now I got it, life in my veins. I've been reborn, far from the norm. My soul transformed. We are connected, brand new perspective. Synchronized, digitized, soul non-reflective. Served and protected, locked in, I'm loaded. This weapon's perfected. All alone, I'm a one-man army. Oh, but with you, I stand a trillion strong. I've been transformed, never going back, better than before. Time to react. This means war, ready to attack. Shiny paper in the hands of my creator. My creator. I press some fine crease, origami, caterpillar cocoon, butterfly by noon, shape shifting the clouds to beautiful blossom bloom. Respected, color corrected, beyond the science of human genetics. Served and protected, locked in, I'm loaded, this weapon's perfected. All alone, I'm a one-man army, oh, but with you, I stand true and strong. I've been transformed, never going back, better than before. Time to react, this means war, ready to attack. I've been transformed, I've been transformed, never going back, better than before. Time to react, this means war, ready to attack. I've been transformed.
I've been transformed, never going back, better than before, never going back. I've been transformed, never going back. This means war, ready for all that. I've been transformed, never going back, better than before, never going back. I've been transformed, never going back. This means war, ready for all that.
Fishy audience. Hello? Okay. So I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about what we did in Portland after getting up at 6 in the morning and running with Coach Bullen. Thank you. We split up into two groups, and kind of like older people with like younger people. And in the mornings, my group went into the first 2 days, went to Union Gospel Mission, and it's like a place where homeless people can like get and like. It's kind of like a program to get people out of being homeless. It doesn't just like enable them. And we like split up into groups there, and some of us folded clothes, and some people would go out and get food and hand it to the homeless people and sit down and talk with them. And I did that a little bit, and me, Jet, and someone else, I'm sorry, did that. And it was, sorry. It was really like fun to do because it wasn't something that like I would normally do, and we just sat down and talked with them and kind of like built relationships with them. And then at lunch, we made sandwiches for them and for some homeless people, and we'd go out and on the streets and just sit down and eat lunch with them. And that was just a really incredible experience, just to see how just like sitting down and eating lunch with someone and just listening to them can just be so moving. Because like me listening to y'all, like just sitting down and listening to y'all, it's like yeah, she's talking to me, that's fun. But just sitting down and listening to them, like how much that could change their lives, or change my life, just sitting down and listening with homeless people and their stories. And then after lunch, we went to a school and hung out with kids at like a YMCA program. That was such an incredible experience because these kids have so little, all of them had so little. But like on the outside, when we went to the school, I was talking to Miss Bossio, and we were talking about how like the homes looked so nice and the school looked so nice. And like how could these kids be poor, and how could these kids have so little when it looked like they had so much? And that was just kind of a life-changing experience, because it's like you can look at someone and see how much it looks like they have, but they don't have much. Like they can have it together on the outside, but on the inside they could be falling apart. And it was just incredible to see how these kids like loved us and how they had so much joy, even though like at home maybe their parents didn't love them, or their parents didn't care about them. It was just such an incredible experience to see how close they came to us, even though they might not trust us. And then the second group, they did like the same thing we did in the mornings, but then after lunch, they went to a Aurora place and kind of did the same thing we did, just built relationships with kids, and at like a kind of like a government-funded home, and just hung out with kids there too, and pretty much did the same thing we did, just with like different people.
One of the really cool experiences that me and Molly both got to experience was meeting Kat and Becky. During lunch, we'd go and sit down with just anybody who needed lunch, and we were walking around for a long time, and everyone else was sitting down and talking to people. And we came up on this girl selling newspapers. So we introduced ourselves, and we asked her if we could sit down and eat lunch with her, and she said sure. So we introduced ourselves, and she started talking about what she does and how she sells newspapers, and like we asked her what's her life like, and she just basically opened up real quick, like everything that she's been through and whatnot, and it was really sad. And then her friend Kat came over. So her friend Kat's like 45, and I think Becky's like 30. So Molly started talking to Becky, and I started talking to Kat. And I was talking to Kat, and I asked her basically what happened to her life too, and it was even sadder than Becky's. Like, she had been homeless since she was 5. But the cool thing was she was just so bright, like she was just so happy. And I asked her like what she wanted to do with her life, and she said she wanted to like show the world how beautiful it is and stuff like that. So it was really heartwarming to see how happy she was, even though like the situation she's been through. So the next day we went back to the same place, and we saw Becky again, but Kat wasn't there. So we were talking to Becky, and I asked her, I was like, well, where do you stand with your faith with God? And she said, like, she loves God and everything, but one of the problems was she lived with a guy that she wasn't married to. So some of the churches, like, rejected her. So, I mean, we started talking and whatnot, and she was talking about how she'd always wanted a Bible. So Molly decided to give her her Bible, her personal Bible, and it was really neat. And also, I forgot to add, the day before, Kat like wrote down her information, like email address and all that good stuff, so I could write her. So once I got back, I got to write her, and I'm currently waiting on a response. But I also decided to give her my personal Bible with all my stuff in it, so she can remember our names. And also, real quick, I wanted to thank whoever gave us, me and Molly, that Bible. That was really nice of you, and we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
One of the things we learned on the Portland mission trip was how to listen. You know, nowadays everybody wants to be heard. You know, like Facebook, Twitter, you want to be heard. You know, nobody really sits back and listens. So that was one of the main things we had to learn on the Portland trip. So the first time I ever learned how to listen was we went to this kid, like Lindsay was saying, in this school. His name was Junior. Now, this kid's got long black hair. I mean, long black hair. So he's just been eyeing me all day, and he's like, finally he's like, come here. And I was like, okay. I'll come over there, and he's like, am I a boy or a girl? It's like, I had no idea. I was like, what? And he's dead serious. He's like, am I a boy or a girl? I was like, oh, dear God, please. What is he? And he's like, I was like, oh, yeah, definitely a boy. And he's like, yeah. Give me a fist bump. I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. But later on that day, we were writing a card for his mom. And he's like, how do you spell I love you? You know, he's 6 years old. I was telling him, and we finished up, and I was like, you want to write one for your dad? And he's just like, no. It's like, well, why not? You always write one for your dad, you know? And he's like, because my dad beats my mom. And I was like, oh. You know, I mean, what do you say to that? It's this little 6-year-old kid who sees his mom get beat almost every day. So I just hugged him, and he hugged me for about 2 minutes. We just sat there and hugged. And it was really life-changing, because it's like, this kid has been through it, and he's 6 years old. You know, if you're like me and my brother, we like to play this game that True absolutely hates. And it's a game where you keep True invisible, you know? He's not there. You can't see him, touch him, hear him. I mean, me and Tyler's gotten good at it. I mean, yeah, we go on for like 5 hours. It gets intense. So I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, that's like how homeless people are, but it's permanent, you know? You see a homeless person, you're like, oh, don't make eye contact. They just want your money, you know? But in reality, they're not like that. You know, they all have stories. So sitting down to lunch with people, it's really cool to see their story, and they just want to talk and talk. Me and Lindsay gave this guy lunch, and he's like, oh, you're sitting with us? Okay, cool. And he just started talking. Me and Lindsay just sat there, ate our lunch, and he talked for a good hour. And that was really life-changing. So God really opened up my ears to hear and listen, and I hope we do the same.
Okay, so my group went to the Aurora House, like Lindsay said, and we just talked to these little kids, and the littlest things make them happy. They don't really have anybody that goes and plays with them, so we went and played with them. And just playing with them and watching them smile, and then just spending time with them. And then the last day, these little girls came and asked me if I was going to come back the next week. And it was really sad to say no, because you could just see the heartbreak in their eyes that they weren't going to have anybody to play with them next week or anything. So most of them were really sad, and they gave you a hug and just said, like, well, thank you. And they were just so grateful, and it was just really good building relationships with them. And it's really sad that I can't play with them every day like I did on the mission trip. And yeah.
So you can see we had a great trip. We had a lot of experience across the board with kids and with homeless people, and we all learned deep lessons about ourselves and about God. And I challenge you to go and talk to each one of these about their experience, because we all had transformation in one way or another. So thank you for listening to us. We're going to have Bayless come up here now.
Trip was just 8 blocks away. And we really have a mission field in our own backyard. We went to Bayless Elementary, which is on 58th Street, just right down from us. And I'm going to let the students tell you about what they did. But first, I want to thank a large group of you who have also helped with this Bayless trip. One is the National Honor Society, those of you who went to Scholastic Books and worked there for hours. Every hour you worked at Scholastic Bookstore bought $20 worth of books for Bayless, and the reading specialists were just thrilled with that. These are just a few examples that I brought out, but we have books that we put a lot of the books that we got into about 40 book bags, and along with a journal and some other things, and these are books that those children will get to take home. But and 40 book bags is great, but we have more books. We just don't have book bags. If 40 book bags means each child gets to take home a book bag once during the year. So you can see we want more of those. So there's still ongoing work to be done. So, but thank you for the NHS members who went over to Scholastic Books to work, and I know there's more opportunities in April for you to do that as well. And also thank you to the junior high, because they did an amazing work. All those books that we got had to have book plates put them in them. And a special thanks to Madeline St. Clair, who designed the book plate that has Trinity Christian School on it. And you can't see it, but if you want to look at it, you can come see it. But then the junior high wrote a nice note on the book and put it into each of these books, along with 300 books that the elementary school had donated. And so that was really an amazing job. Thank you, junior high, for doing that. And now I'm going to let the students talk about what they did there and how meaningful it was to them. In fact, for some of them, it was such a great bonding experience that they had with these students that they went back on the day that on Friday, when we didn't have to go on a mission trip, they said, can we go back? Can we be with our kids? And so some of them went back that next day. So I'm going to start with Connor.
So basically, throughout the week, we just kind of help the teachers, teach the kids, and just pay attention to the kids, let them tell us their stories and stuff. And so one thing that I noticed throughout the week is how excited these kids were just to have someone to talk to, just to listen to them. And you don't know, a lot of the kids come from bad backgrounds, and you don't know how much attention they get at home, how much love. So it's just good to be a blessing to the kids and let them have someone to talk to. Thank you.
The first day that I got there, the teacher came up to me and she started telling me about all the kids and some of their stories. And one of them, she pointed out 3 little boys, and she said none of them have fathers. And she asked me just to kind of shadow them and kind of just listen to them and let them love on me. And it was really cool because one of this kid named Mario, and me and Addison went back and saw him. He, the whole week, would just run up to me and hug me every day, and he would just, jump around me and climb on me. And he just needed me, or needed someone in his life to love on him. And it was just such an eye-opening experience, and it was so fun.
So the whole week I was with this one classroom, and this classroom, the first day, I was thinking to myself, how can these kids have such terrible lives and be so happy all the time? And so during nap time, this one teacher, she comes up to me, and she points out all these kids and tells me their story. And I could tell you them, but they made me cry, so I just... But the one story that really, really affected me was actually hers. She told me that her brother committed suicide at 19, and that he had a baby on the way with his girlfriend. And she said that affected her, and that is why she wanted to go into teaching, because her father and all her siblings were in jail. And she said she looked back and she realized that it started in school with the mistreatment of how they were in school, because their teachers and the other students, they didn't accept them. And she said that is why they turned out the way they did. So that's why she wanted to be a teacher and make sure it didn't happen to these kids. And that really touched me, because it sort of made me realize I want to do something about that too. I don't want to sit around and just let these people have terrible lives because of their terrible families. No one deserves that, so.
Okay, so I did not understand how much of a ministry being a kindergarten teacher is. It's actually probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. I worked one-on-one with mostly three kindergartners, and we worked on letters and writing their names, and by the grace of God, after the week, I believe all three of those children could write their full name. That was pretty impressive. So, and I forgot that we were speaking today, but if I would have remembered, I definitely would have brought in all the drawings and letters and everything they gave me so that I could show y'all, because they were just so adorable. I worked one-on-one mostly with this one little girl named Kristen, and she was adorable. She, her background story was just really horrible, and of course I didn't know all the details and everything. I have to say it was the first time that a little child, a little adorable, beautiful blonde child, has ever growled at me. Multiple times. But, we really grew attached, and I wasn't able to go back Thursday, but this week I definitely am. I promised her that I would be coming, and that's actually when they do their PE. So, going to be doing PE with my kindergartners, and I'm really excited about it because they're just amazing.
We have a slideshow to show you as well.
Your name
giant rise, catch the demons by surprise. Holy nation sanctified, let this be our battle cry. Ready yourselves, ready yourselves. Let us shine the light of Jesus in the darkest night. Oh, ready yourselves, ready yourselves.
Okay, you are dismissed to go to class.